Hi students, after discussing metals, non-metals and metal voids in the last video lecture, let us discuss physical and chemical properties of the metals. क्या होती हैं फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज? फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज का सीधा मतलब है कि कोई भी मटेरियल फिजिकली कैसे बिहेव करता है, और केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज का मतलब है when chemically it react with some other substances, what kind of compound it makes. So basically, physical properties, physical behavior पे dependent है. Let us discuss properties of the metal, the physical properties of the metal. So usually malleable, ductility, lustrous, sonorous, these are being discussed in the metals. But I'll discuss first the behavior of the metals as a solid. Why I'm discussing so? Because it becomes a base for other properties also. How it becomes the base, let us discuss. So, physical properties of the metals. Physical properties of metals. Right? First is metals are solid in nature. I'm discussing this. You will understand why I'm discussing this. Metals are solid in nature. Are solid in nature. Let's go back and understand what do you mean by solid and how does it affects the other properties also. You see, if I make the atoms of this solid, and these atoms will be very close to each other. Although they are very close, I am making a little apart so that we can understand it. If I make liquid, atoms of the liquid, we have to show a little further apart from each other. And if I have to show this as gases, the particles will be far from each other. Means atoms are far from each other. So basically the distance between the two atoms define whether given substance is solid, liquid or gas. Now, why the atoms of these solids are close to each other? It is because of their attractive forces. The atomic attractive forces between the solid atom is much higher. So, because of that, they are bounded to each other. And having lesser kinetic energy. Liquids, although according to the solid they are far away from each other, but not much far, but still they are far away as compared to the solids, so their kinetic energy is much higher as compared to the solids. And gases atoms have higher kinetic energy because they are far away from each other, so they are always randomly actually moving. Now, if we have understood this basis and we are saying metals are solid in nature, that simply means the atoms of the solid are very close to each other. They have lesser kinetic energy and higher atomic strength between them. So, because of that, metals are solid in nature. Remember that, okay? Metals are solid, but there is an exception, that is called mercury. Mercury is the metal which is available in the liquid form. Another particular property of the mercury is very sensitive towards the temperature. Mercury is very, very sensitive towards the temperature. By gaining a small amount of the temperature, it expanded very highly. Right? That is why we utilize mercury in thermometer. It also reacts with the pressure also. Some BP apparatus are also being utilizing the mercury also, right? So it is very sensitive towards temperature and pressure for expansion. Okay. So let's go for the next property. The next one is metals are malleable. What do you mean by malleable? Malleable means they can be converted into thin sheets. By subjected to some strength or hammering. If we hammer a metal, do not get broken up. It rather convert itself into thin sheet. The question is, why then it is not broken? Because of the atomic strength. Metals atoms have a great strength. They can be subjected to higher pressure or a higher force, but they will not get separated. Rather, they will stretch into and become a thin sheet. That is why I discussed metals are solid in first. Okay, so metals can be converted into thin sheets. This thin sheets, you have seen that aluminium foil is being utilized for packing the food material. Aluminium foils are being utilized for packing the tablets you must be having at home. Paracetamol, some antibiotics, cetirizine kind of tablets at home. You see they are packed into the aluminium foil. Silver thin sheets are being utilized for decorating the sweets also. Correct? So most malleable metal is platinum. Remember that. Okay. Next one. Metals are ductile in nature. Ductile in nature means what? Now, you see atoms of the metals are binding with a great strength, so they are not going to leave. But because of that reason, we can actually change them into different shapes. Here, ductility means metals can be, if subjected to higher pressure, it can be converted into thin wires. You see, copper wires are being utilized in the domestic as well as the industrial circuits, electrical circuit, right? So, if we take 1 gram of the gold, 1 gram of gold, you see, 1 gram of the gold can be converted into 2 kilometer thin wire, 2 kilometer long thin wire. It can be converted into such a long distance. Remember that. But again, ductility means converting into thin wires. That is again because of the atomic strength of the metals. Metals are sonorous in nature. The fourth property is metals are sonorous in nature. Sonority means they produces ringing sound when struck with something hard. Ringing sound when struck with something hard. You must have heard the school bells ringing sound. When the peon struck it with some other metal, it produces ringing sound. That is the beautiful sound which students heard. So why it is producing ringing sound? That's a property. Metals producing ringing sound when struck with something hard, that's okay. But why it is producing? Again, the atoms of the metals are bounded by great strength. When it is actually subjected to some other force, when we struck with the metal with something hard, what really happens? This striking is a force which is being transferred from atom to atom, which produces the vibration in the atoms. These vibrations are being transferred from atom to atom and ultimately into the air. And that vibration actually is what? That vibration is basically the sound. So because the atoms are close to each other, transferring the energy or the force is very, very easy, and getting vibrated, not getting apart from each other, and vibrations are being transferred from one atom to another, and ultimately the air produces the ringing sound. So remember, the logic should be there also. The fifth one is metals are lustrous in nature. Metals are lustrous in nature. Lustrous means they have shining surface. They have shining surface. Lustrous in nature, metals are shining surface, having shining surface. Now, why metals have shining surface? Let us understand it logically. Okay? Technically, why we call it. Let's suppose we have a metal surface over here, and the light is falling on it. The light rays are falling in it. Sun rays always having a higher energy. These energy by the radiations is absorbed by the particles, surface particles of the metal. These surface particles absorb the energy and actually get excited. When they get excited, they jump over and also release this energy. This energy is being released by excited particles of the surface of the metals. When this energy is released, it appears to us lustrous. So we call metals are lustrous in nature. Remember that, okay? Next property, let us discuss. Metals have high melting point. I don't remember, metals have high melting point and boiling point. Melting point and boiling point. What is melting point? MP. What is melting point? Melting point, simple is, you see, if we have these two atoms very close to each other, we call them solid. We want them to bring them into this particular shapes. They should be apart from each other. If it is solid, we want them into liquid form. So liquid means getting the atoms away from each other, a little away from each other. So their shape, their physical nature will change. It become from solid to liquid. So the energy required to overcome the force of attraction of the atoms. The energy required to overcome the force of attraction between the particles. Attraction between the particles of the matter. Particles of the matter is called its melting point. So metals are again solid, but that is because their force of attraction is much higher. Energy required to impart them requires much higher. That is why the melting point of the metal is higher. If the melting point is higher, boiling point is definitely going to be higher again. So this is the reason I have discussed metals are solid in the first case. So remember, what is melting point? Energy required to overcome the force of attraction. So for that reason, melting point is higher and boiling point is also higher. Okay. The next property which we are going to discuss is metals have great tensile strength. Metals have great tensile strength. What is tensile strength? When any material is subjected to a great stretch pressure, we are stretching it, that's a pressure which we are creating, and how much that pressure a substance can absorb, that's called tensile strength. Metals have great tensile strength. You must can see in the cranes of wires are being utilized to transport very heavy materials from one place to another. It is because the metal wires have a great tensile strength. They do not get broken up or being fractured also. That is the reason we are utilizing them into crane for transporting heavy substances. Remember that. Okay. So metals have high tensile strength. Next property is metals are good conductor of heat and electricity. Metals are good conductor of heat and electricity. Let's have a small experiment. If we take a metal rod, fix it into a stand, right, and start heating it from one end, very soon we will see, right, very soon we will see whole of the metal rod will get heated up. Why so? Because there is conduction. Heat is an energy which is getting transferred from atom to atom to atom to end. So it is moving from one end to another. As atoms of the metals are very close to each other, so transferring the energy from one atom to another ultimately into the whole of the rod is very easy. You must have seen during making of the food, if some utensil is actually lying inside the cooker, that also will get heated up. It is because the nature of the metal, they transfer the heat energy from atom to atom and from one end to another. The same thing is when we say metals are good conductor of electricity. Now electricity means movement of electrons. We know that movement of electrons or any charged particle is called electricity. We already have discussed it in the electricity lesson. Now, where are the electrons? Now metals have free electrons. Metals have free electron. In the last video lecture, we have discussed about the valence electron. So metals valence electrons are 1, 2, 3, which can be lost also. So from one atom to another, when it is subjected to electricity, electrons start moving from one atom to another, and this way the electricity is being conducted by the metals. So free electrons means valence electrons are moving from one end to another. This is basically called metals are good conductor of electricity also. So these are the physical properties. Go through them clearly. In the next video lecture, we will be discussing about the physical properties of the non-metals also. Okay, take care. Bye.